I'm sitting here chatting with our piano soloist for this concert, my friend Peter Mack. Peter and I are going to be collaborating on Beethoven's Emperor Concerto. The entire concert has an Austro-German theme to it. It also contains music by Johann Strauss, the Emperor Waltz, and the Fourth Symphony by Hans Werner Henze, giving audiences a chance to survey roughly 150 years of Austro-German tradition. The concert bears the title Beethoven, Defiance Incarnate, and so I wanted to jump right in and have Peter talk a little bit about what made Beethoven the rebel he was, and what do you see as the rebellious tendencies in him as a composer?
I think the lovely thing about Beethoven is that he was in some ways an outcast, but he was so convinced of himself and of what he was doing that he just went his own way very, very early. And I think perhaps the fact of his deafness, which started in early middle age and then continued for the rest of his life, served further to isolate him so that he was even more alone, forging his own way. And because his music was so wonderful and because his ideas were so earth-shattering, that whatever he did set the standard and set the fashion for music and changed music completely, so that the music that we play today and the music that we love today would be completely different without Beethoven. He changed the actual instrument that we play. Beethoven, when he was writing for a piano with far fewer keys at the top and at the bottom. And he was so important and so successful and so worshipped by everybody who played the piano that piano manufacturers would send him free new instruments with more and more and more keys, and he'd write for more and more and more keys. And because Beethoven was writing this stuff, everybody wanted to play it. And to play it, you had to buy a new piano, which is why the piano manufacturers would send them to him knowing that he'd do that. And then everybody had to rush out and buy a new piano so that they could play this new Beethoven work.
One of the things that's always surprised me about musical history and the various characters that have interacted is that Beethoven studied for a time with Haydn, and I think of Haydn as one of the great innovators, this man who had these bizarre pauses and would modulate into keys where you simply did not expect him to go. I mean, he was one of the great original thinkers, and yet he was always telling Beethoven, not so radical. And Beethoven referred to Haydn as that old fuddy-duddy. I mean, of all people not to get along, they didn't. And yet I find, if I look at that great triumvirate of Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, I see the most similarities between Haydn and Beethoven, even though they mixed like oil and water.
Beethoven was, I think, ungrateful to Haydn. His first sonatas, the Opus 2, there are 3 sonatas, and he dedicated them to Joseph Haydn, but Haydn said that he wanted him to dedicate to my teacher, Joseph Haydn, and Beethoven wouldn't do it. He dedicated them just to Joseph Haydn, and lucky to get that. And when you listen to them, you can think about it. If there's Opus 2 number 3, it starts with this sort of little lovely thing. It's nothing much and very like a Haydn sonata. And it goes on, and the idea is that Haydn is Beethoven. It's hard to talk and play at the same time. Beethoven is playing tribute to Haydn, and he's doing this little thing. And then he says, oh, what the hell, I'm Beethoven. And then it goes, and it's this big thing, and it's like this lovely little perfect Haydn thing, and then he says, but move over everybody, because Haydn may have been the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I'm the entire bakery. in the second movement, the part that goes... that this bit inspired Bernstein when he was writing West Side Story, and he stole it and made There's a Place for Us, which of course has completely ruined the movement for me, because now every time I come to that bit I think, oh, there's a place for us, there it is. But still, it's lovely to think that even 150 years later, the concerto still inspired somebody and became so beautiful.